So, obviously that we could play some more of that. I could show you some other video. Maybe we were thinking about trying to do maybe a demonstration in a fishbowl. Does that make sense? Okay.
Still up to that, David? We've had a volunteer.
Okay. So what if we just arrange the chairs so we have sort of a semicircle up near the front here?
Okay with that? Okay. So let's just see.
One way I think we could do would be sit there. So maybe just arrange in sort of rows.
What the issue is.
I would just explain to them that doing a quick covering one eye in the back, I had never experienced it before. My wife and I was speaking at Trinity. We have a 3-year-old son and a new baby in December. I was at the rent. We was going to be sold, and it was about 2 weeks ago. My wife was asking me for a couple of months, do we stay? And I'll take the money restrictions, space, and all these things that, as a father and a student, I'm thinking about. And I haven't been able to give her an answer. She's been waiting. Well, I realized in the back that when I covered my eyes, when I covered my right eye, it was, going on. But when I covered this eye, it was like, as I had said to her, I couldn't even go there. I couldn't even address the question. It was like, I couldn't see the question. And that was just very quickly back as I was ushering the folks in the room. So I thought it was quite remarkable. I had 2 different channels.
This is an example of a person making a decision, a really important decision, and getting stuck in that process. So let's work that through. Okay, so if you hold in your mind this decision, so just close your eyes for a second, really get in the grip of that. And just cover that eye. And cover it well. Use the heel of your hand right up in here on your cheek. There you go. So just think about that decision and what comes up for you. Family, the responsibility, and notice your body. Do you feel that anywhere in your body? In your shoulders, which is so often where we hold responsibility, right? It's heavy on our shoulders, or you feel it. Just notice that. And switch eyes, please. Think about that decision. So just notice that and switch eyes. Think about that decision and what's coming up for you.
again, that's going in the middle of the, but it's more to do something, it's more to take control and freedom of it.
Notice that and switch eyes. Of that decision.
Seem to be focused on it, but it's not really. Still more relaxed in some way than I am. Some way, I can, in some way, it seems like I'm more deliberate rather than.
Switch eyes. Think about the decision. Feel some urgency or some pressure to do something. Right, switch eyes. But because we're all just sitting and watching, let me do what I would normally do if I was going to help them move past this. Okay? So can I have your hand, please? Okay. I'm going to tap right here. This is a point for shock in the system. See the decision. Can you believe how hard this decision is for you? Interesting, isn't it, David? This is a hard decision, and yet some part of your experience says that it shouldn't be so hard. But it's hard. It's really hard. Tap on your hand again. You okay with that? Believe how hard this decision is for you.
Yes, it's important.
It's important, and it's hard for you. So it's an important decision.
I haven't really got enough to make the right decision in the situation we're in.
A lot of responsibility.
Especially with the Counselling.
And switch eyes, please. I'm going to ask people just to notice the different shape, the different position of his head. And in my practice, what I would do, David, is I would say, excuse me. Think about this decision. What comes up for you? Switch eyes, please. I'm going to do that again. And think about this decision. What comes up for you? But you don't know what decision to make. But what is your body doing? Switch eyes. And how do you feel as you think of that decision? Switch. Very good. It's really, if we can notice how we're holding our heads, it's really important. And think about making this decision. Can you believe how hard this decision is for you? And switch. Can you believe how hard this decision is for you?
I feel like if I say contrary to that, it's really totally yes. Like that.
And switch. Can you believe how hard this decision is for you? So it's not about making the right decision, it's about getting to the place of noticing how hard it is for the pressure we're putting on ourselves to make the right decision, and the responsibility and the weight, and noticing the process that you're going through of freeing yourself up to trust your instincts, to know what's true for you. And switch out, please. Can you believe how hard it is for you to make this decision? And switch eyes, please. And notice how hard it is for you to make this decision. Can you believe it? Now, notice your internal experience. Notice your body. Right. Switch eyes, please. I'm going to follow Rick's suggestion here. And I'm just going to do an experiment and see perhaps how it is that you're getting stuck on this. Are you all right with that? Okay, so watch my finger and just notice the decision, and notice if there's any point in which you find yourself getting more tense. More in here. Just so how about here? How about here? How about here? They're the same or different? More as we go this way. So just notice the level of intensity and where you're feeling the tightness. Yeah, go back over here. Watch my finger. You feel the tightening more tight here. Is it this particular point or just in this whole area? In that whole area. Okay, so what I would do with that is I would ask you to hold your eye over here. Just feel the intensity and now switch eyes. Same or different. Then back and forth and just notice that intensity. And so keep going. Very quickly. Just notice your tension. Just noticing that, yeah, you're holding your breath, which is often our experience when we're anxious. And correct your head, please. Keep going and just notice the differences. Same or different? Close to the same. Okay. So, thank you. So think about this decision. They look about the same right now. We'll cover that up. How are you feeling when you think about this decision? And switch eyes, please. And focus decision. Same or different? Are you able to hold the decision or the thought about the decision in your mind? Are you able to hold it at all? So that could be a target right there. Being able to hold the decision or the thought about making a decision in your mind. And that you just change whatever part of that process is getting stuck. So let's try that. Just think about the decision and holding the thought of making that decision in your mind. And switch. And in your own timing, go back and forth and just see how able you are to hold it. Not avoid it, not doing this with it, but actually holding it in your mind. And you hold the decision in your mind. And switch eyes and notice if it's easier or harder. That's the normal experience. Just an integrating of that experience. And bringing that process down into pieces. Chunking it down. And how comfortable is that level of intensity? Is that okay for you to hold that in that level of intensity? Yeah, that's probably the place where I would need it. And it's not a matter of like, hey, you got to make the right decision right now. It's not about that. So how do we get out of our own ways so that we can live our lives making decisions that maybe are wrong, maybe are wrong, maybe we live our lives, not getting stuck, and noticing how we make that hard on ourselves by saying, it shouldn't be this hard, or I can't think about that, because those are two very normal strategies human beings use to make life hard. And keep us away from our faith, keep us away from truth in ourselves. That there's good and bad in every decision. That in a session with me, if you were my client, I wouldn't be, the outcome would not necessarily be a decision. Because that's not the issue. The issue is the process of streamlining that and noticing how we put pressure on ourselves, noticing how we deny our own experience. Like, that shouldn't be so hard for me. Why am I getting worried about this? I shouldn't be worried about this. I can't be that worried about this. You are. And it takes a lot of courage to get up and show our feelings in front of everybody. This is what people do. This is kind of how we get stuck as human beings. And that is, you have a decision to make. you're going to be more likely to make a decision that you're going to be comfortable with. If you're not putting all that weight on yourself, and you're going to allow yourself to feel what you feel about it. If that makes sense. So I appreciate that very much, Rick.
Here, just because you have the microphone for the recording, not because I'm into pontificating exponentially or anything. That was a very, working on a very mild issue. I have some clients where they'll switch, switch to the other side, and they even just do that, and their whole body jerks back. Like there's spasm in the back of their back that like pulls their whole body back. And I've got people who, when they're working with switches, those little tiny pockets of intensity, where it'll be like a millimeter from I feel fine to I'm going to throw up in your wastebasket right now. Just because that little tiny pocket of intensity is so intense. So the range of issues that you work with this, that ranges all the way from the huge, physical body trauma, stuff, all the way to stuff that's just like, I just don't understand why I can't do this, why I'm stuck on this, like the issue of David so kindly, demonstrated here. So it's really good to have a tool that can work with that whole range, all the way from just, gee, this is kind of weird, I can usually do that, and yet in this situation I can't. I'm kind of stuck, or I'm kind of stirred up, or I can't get motivated. A colleague of mine who's an actor was working on one play, where he was doing Macbeth all by himself, and playing all the roles of it. And he wanted to do it, and he knew he could do it, and he knew it would be profitable, etc., but he just couldn't make himself do it. He was walking around, laying down, going to the fridge, going out, and finally he just laid down on the bed, and he just started to do the cover. He said, okay, thinking about doing what he was wanting to get doing. And he goes, one side, it was like, it's too much hassle, it'll never work, I'm just going to lay down, I'm so tired. It's like physically tired, and the other side was like, hey, I could do this part of it, and I could do that, would only take me 15 minutes if I could do that. And so he did the switching, and sort of broke through the procrastination, and was able to go on and do the show, and did it quite a few times, and really well, and that sort of thing. That same person, although I wouldn't recommend that any of you do this, spent some time just walking down the street in downtown Vancouver, and just walking toward people like this, and then he'd switch and see what his experience was. And what he realized was he saw people coming toward him totally differently, depending on which side. Like on one side, it was totally, everything was negative. He saw people being sort of, a little bit sort of critical or angry, and the other side was like, hey, everybody's friendly, kind of thing. So it can really affect, perceptions of others, perceptions of self, decisions, procrastination, emotional states, physical states. And so you can dissolve, headaches, major headaches. Kevin, I was just taking a whole manual for using this technique with headaches, including migraines. And it's the same idea, where you just cover, notice what you feel, where you feel it, what level of intensity, cover, notice what you feel. And if it's different, then just keep switching. If it's the same but not all the way down, then you do that sweep technique. And then usually that sort of moves it out of the sort of equilibrium, and it starts to come down the rest of the way. So what we've had today is just a taste. We've just given you sort of an introduction, a few demonstrations, a couple of case examples on the videos, wanted you to see what glitches look like, giving you samples of the kinds of situations where you might use these techniques, the types of clients, because we've worked with different clients. Audrey and I work with very different caseloads. So really encourage you to, if you're interested in more about that, reading up on that, like perhaps getting Fred Schiffer's book and getting our book, perhaps if you're wanting to read more about, and see more about case examples and cautions and safeguards and screens and types of issues and that kind of thing. I'm really glad you made it today. And yeah, maybe questions.
Just a question for the client. The deal with the question I gave was about responsibility. The whole thing about I'm responsible, not I have to make a decision. My natural tendency would go back to the earliest time when the legal recollect feeling that and then working with that.
Yeah.
I just wondered if that would be just the EMDR type of thing.
Yeah, and I've done that certainly, a lot of times where I've gone to when's the first time you felt that, or when's the first time you can remember, or when's the most intense time. Yeah. Other times people can't get there. Nothing comes to them. And so we just work with what's there. And then we could work with glitches, those little stuck places in the eye, and resolve them and integrate them. And,
Depending on what a person is coming there for. They might be coming because they have a difficult time focusing on something that's hard for them. They may be coming because they feel overly responsible, or they take too much on. They've got to make it right every time. There's so many different approaches to that. So they may be in a place of saying, well, I want to come for a few sessions to work on this. Or they just may be feeling kind of stuck in some way. So the therapeutic decision you make, this is just one more tool to add to that, because you can either raise the intensity if people are having trouble feeling their experience, or lowering it if they're having trouble living their lives around their anxiety, panic, or whatever. So this is a bring it up or bring it down. Notice it, and integrate it. It's another tool. I think it's a very, very useful one. One of the things that I did with David is that I tapped the triple warmer on the back of his hand. Are you guys aware of using the triple warmer? It's a wonderful, somebody had mentioned the desire to know more about dissociation. Was that you? Well, I find the triple warmer very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. And it's right in the back of the hand. Here's my little finger, here's my ring finger. This space in here. This is not new. God. Triple warmer's been around in the 70s, as I remember. Remember the thymus thumping and for anybody who's over 40. 3 knuckles in there. And it really helps with shock. Can you believe that happened? Often, a few taps like this and people will work through a lot of stuck stuff about, oh yeah, I can believe that happened. It's hard to believe, but I can believe it. And it's just a matter of tapping some of the energy, some of the shock out of the system, I believe.
So it's an acupressure point.
Acupressure point for shock.
And you can tap it with fingers. You don't need to use, no, you can tap it with, but it's thinking of a right angle triangle between this knuckle, and then the distance back, and it's right in the center of that. And you can use either hand. And all
It's
it does,
acupressure, so a fair tap.
yeah,
this
not
won't-
just
this won't
touching it.
do
You
it.
have to kind of
Has
give
to
it
be
some
very
intensity. But one great question that Audrey had, when someone can't believe it, I was working with a woman who had been an observer in an auto accident with a motorcycle, and the way she described it, I thought, she sounds like she's describing the movie she saw Saturday night. And she describes it as the body and blood on the sidewalk. And yet the person lived, and it was a real person, but it was all this sort of from a distance, just by the way she described it. And so we worked through it and did the switching and glitch and this kind of thing. And what I realized is she just couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. It was just so overwhelming to her. She's kneeling on the ground by this person and blood's pouring out of his head, and she had just said, I can't believe this. And so we did this piece, and the part that broke her loose from the I can't believe it was, can you believe you can't believe it? I was like, yeah, or no, or whatever, you know. So it really is a profound little therapeutic tool you can use to just get somebody to the place where they can, you know, at least acknowledge it or feel it or work through it. Another time I was working with a young fellow who he was in a car accident where two of his friends were killed, and he was driving. And we were sitting there working with his trauma, and his father was sitting in the room, just sort of at the periphery of my vision. And I could see all of a sudden the father was way more upset than the son was. So I talked to them after the session, and the wife said, yeah, well, his brother was killed when he was 15 in a car accident. So he's triggering on all of that. So we start working with this, and he just goes, 4, 5, not much. 4, 5. And then I started to just have him talk about it in detail. Now, how did you find out about it? Well, my dad went to the door. Okay, what time of night was it? Where were you? What room were you in? And then how did he find you? Okay, he came down to my bedroom. He opened the door. How much light was getting in? Point to me where he was standing when he came in the light. Tell me about how loudly was he talking? Was he talking whispering? What expression was on your dad's face when he was telling you about that? And all of a sudden, boom, it just breaks through the dissociation. It gets this huge flood of tears and emotion and shaking. And then we did the switching, boom, 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 and he cleared it. So sometimes it's just getting someone to walk through enough of the detail that they can just connect to it. So we hope it's been helpful to you. And you do have evaluation forms for the whole conference, and I'm assuming that part of those evaluations are sort of how helpful was this session at some point. And we'd be happy to address questions that come up later after this session. You go home, or you get the book, or you have a client and you wonder, what about this, or how do you get there, whatever. We have a website, www.sightpsych, S-I-G-H-T, Psych, P-S-Y-C-H, it's all one word, sightpsych.com, and it has, you know, a little email link to it. So you can go there and you can send us a question and we can respond. So thank you very much for coming out. Okay?
Oh, sight, S-I-G-H-T. Psych. Sightpsych.psych. Rick?